Blessed is with the day of light that be. Blessed as peace has come to grace his soul, and truth be told.
We will now listen to a Dhamma sermon by Most Venerable Pra Anil Sakya Thero, Assistant Abbot of Wat Bovaranivas Vihara in Bangkok. Today's sermon will reflect on the relevance of Buddhist teachings to contemporary global challenges, including peace building, sustainability, ethical living, and inner harmony. May I respectfully invite Most Venerable Pra Anil Sakya Thero to conduct the Dhamma sermon.
Venerable member of the Sangha, Your Excellencies, distinguished ambassadors and diplomats, honorable guests, friends of Dhamma from Sri Lanka and Nepal, as well as Thailand, and ladies and gentlemen. Today, under the sacred light of Vesak, we gather not merely to commemorate a historical event, but to awaken ourselves to a timeless truth. Vesak is not only a remembrance of the birth, awakening, and Mahaparinibbana of the Buddha. It is also a reminder that humanity can transcend ignorance through wisdom and overcome suffering through compassion. This year's theme, which the organizers have set, illuminating wisdom and compassion for a peaceful world, which is really deeply meaningful in our contemporary age. We live in a world of extraordinary technological advancement, yet profound spiritual unrest. Humanity has conquered outer space, but struggled to govern inner space. We can communicate instantly across continents, yet often fail to understand the suffering of those nearest to us. The modern world faces many crises simultaneously: wars and violence, environmental destructions, social divisions, economic inequality, mental anxiety, loneliness, and erosion of ethical values. Though these problems appear political, economic, or environmental, on the surface, Buddhism teaches us that their roots lie much deeper in the human mind itself. The Buddha declared in the Dhammapada, "Mind precedes all phenomena. Mind is their chief. They are mind-made. Mano pubbangama dhamma," etc. If the mind is filled with greed, hatred, and delusion, societies become violent, exploitative, and divided. But if the mind is cultivated with wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness, peace naturally emerges. First within individuals, then within communities, and of course, ultimately among nations. Therefore, true peace building does not begin at negotiation tables alone. It begins in the transformation of consciousness. It is also profoundly meaningful to reflect that in Nepal, the sacred Vesak celebration is often known as Buddha Jayanti, literally the celebration of the Buddha's birth. This expression carries a unique and beautiful significance, especially because Nepal is the blessed land where Prince Siddhartha Gautama was born in Lumbini. It is therefore natural that Nepalese Buddhist culture places special emphasis upon the nativity of the Buddha, the appearance of the great being who would illuminate the world with wisdom and compassion. Yet, Buddha Jayanti signifies far more than a historical birthday. It also symbolizes the spiritual awakening of Prince Siddhartha, who transcended ignorance, conquered suffering, and became the Buddha, the awakened one. Thus, the celebration is not merely about the birth of a person, but about the birth of enlightenment within human consciousness. Moreover, Mahaparinibbana of the Buddha carries another profound meaning. While it marks the passing away of the physical body of the Buddha, it simultaneously signifies the enduring birth of Buddhism itself. For after the Buddha's final passing, the Dhamma and Vinaya became the guiding teacher of humanity. The Buddha's physical presence ceased, yet his wisdom began to radiate across nations, cultures, and generations. In this sense, Vesak, or Buddha Jayanti, commemorates three interconnected births: the birth of the Prince Siddhartha in Lumbini, the birth of the Buddha through enlightenment, and the birth of the Buddha's dispensation in the world for the welfare and liberation of all beings. In Buddhism, wisdom, or panya, is not mere intellectual knowledge. It is profound understanding of reality as it truly is. Etymologically, the term panya, or prajna in Sanskrit, derives from pa and nya, which means to know comprehensively, or to understand from all perspectives. The Buddha discovered that suffering arises when human beings cling to illusion. The illusion of permanence, the illusion of separateness, an illusion that happiness can be achieved through endless consumption and domination. Modern civilization often encourages precisely these illusions. Nations compete endlessly for power. Economies are driven by limitless desire. Individuals are thought to define themselves by possessions, status, and external success. Yet, despite unprecedented material abundance, anxiety and dissatisfaction continue to grow. Why? Because external progress alone cannot heal internal emptiness. The Buddha compared craving to drinking salt water. The more one drinks, the more thirsty one becomes. Today, humanity urgently needs a civilization guided not only by intelligence, but by wisdom. Wisdom teaches interdependence. Nothing exists interdependently. Our lives are interconnected with one another, with nature and with future generations. When this understanding deepens, exploitation becomes morally impossible. A wise person does not ask merely, "What can I gain?" but rather, "What consequences will my actions create for others and for the world?" This is why Buddhist wisdom is profoundly relevant to global peace building. Violence often begins with the illusion of us versus them, but wisdom dissolves these artificial boundaries. When we truly understand interdependence, compassion naturally arises. The Buddha's enlightenment did not lead him away from the world. It led him back to the world with boundless compassion. For 45 years, the Buddha walked from village to village, teaching not for personal gain, but for the welfare and happiness of many. Bahujana hitaya, bahujana sukhaya. And with compassion, lokanukampaya. It completes a threefold motivational structure here: ethical, that is welfare; experiential, that is happiness; and affective, that is empathetic compassion. Lokanukampaya isn't cold compassion, isn't cold empathy. It is about feeling with others and responding to the world's pain. You can hear three motivations here: doing good, creating happiness, and turning into others' suffering. Compassion, or karuna, is not a pity. It is the courageous willingness to feel and respond to the suffering of others. The term compassion is often subject to popular reinterpretation, yet its classical etymological sense provides important conceptual clarity. Derived from the Latin cum, which is a prefix, means with or together, and passio, which basically means suffering, to suffer or endure. Therefore, compassion literally signifies to suffer with another. This linguistic grounding is instructive for Buddhist comparative reflection, as it closely parallels the sense of anukampa, that is a loka anukampa in Pali, which conveys a responsive, effectively resonant form of empathy and atonement to the suffering of others that moves with their conditions. In this way, both traditions converge on a vision of compassion, not an abstract sentiment, but as embodied relational awareness rooted in the shared vulnerability of the sentient existence. In our age, compassion is urgently needed. We see refugees displaced by war, children suffering from poverty, communities divided by hatred and prejudice, people overwhelmed by depression, loneliness, and fear. Despite digital connectivity, many people feel emotionally disconnected. Modern life often cultivates competition more than kindness. If nations respond to fear with aggression, conflict multiplies. If society responds to division with intolerance, polarization deepens. If individuals respond to suffering with selfishness, humanity loses its moral foundation. Compassion is therefore not weakness, it is moral courage. To practice compassion today means to listen deeply, to protect human dignity, to care for vulnerable, to reject violence, and to cultivate empathy even towards those with whom we disagree. In Buddhism, loving kindness, metta, extend beyond nationality, race, religion, or ideology. The Buddha encouraged us to radiate boundless goodwill to all beings as a mother protects her only child. Imagine what our world would become if political discourses, educations, economics, and international relations were guided by this spirit. One of the greatest global challenges today is the ecological crisis. Climate change, deforestation, pollution, species extinctions, and environmental degradation threaten the future of humanity itself. The environmental crisis is not merely a technological problem. It is fundamentally an ethical and spiritual problem. The Buddha taught moderation, mindfulness, and reverence for life. Buddhism does not view nature as something separate from humanity, to be exploited without limit. Rather, nature is a part of the interconnected web of existence. When greed becomes institutionalized, the earth suffers. The Buddha praised simplicity and contentment, santuti. He taught that true happiness does not come from excessive consumption, but from inner peace. Modern economies often encourages endless desire, yet the planet's resources are finite. Humanity cannot achieve sustainability while cultivating limitless greed. Therefore, Buddhist ethics can contribute greatly to environmental consciousness. Mindfulness teaches responsible consumption. Compassion encourages protection of living beings. Wisdom reminds us that harming nature ultimately means harming ourselves. A sustainable world requires not only new technologies, but also a new consciousness. The Buddha once said, contentment is the greatest wealth. Santuti paramang dhanam. This teaching may be one of the most important ecological principles for the 21st century. Another challenge facing the modern world is ethical confusion. Technological advancement has outpaced moral development. Artificial intelligence, social media, biotechnology, and global communication possess immense power, yet without ethical guidance, power can become destructive. Pope Leo XIV recently emphasized that artificial intelligence must always remain under the guidance of human wisdom and moral responsibility. He warned that although AI may process information at extraordinary speed, it cannot replace conscience, compassion, and genuine human understanding. He further called upon the world to ensure that technology serves human dignity, peace, and the common good rather than greed, manipulation, or destructions. His message reminds us that in an age of advancing technology, humanity still requires wisdom to illuminate the right path. The Buddha emphasized that morality, or sila, is the indispensable foundation of healthy society. The 5 precepts the Venerable monk just chanted earlier remain profoundly relevant today. To refrain from violence, from stealing, from sensual misconduct, which is the foundation of human rights, from false speech, and from intoxication that clouds the mind. These are not merely religious practice. They are principles for civilized coexistence. Imagine a world where truthfulness governed public discourse, where greed did not dominate economies, where human dignity was respected, where mindfulness replaced impulsiveness. Ethical living creates trust. Trust creates harmony. Harmony creates peace. In Buddhism, morality is not based on a fear of punishment, but on understanding consequences. Every action leaves an imprint upon ourselves and the world. The Buddha taught karma, not as fatalism, but as moral responsibility. Today, humanity possesses immense collective power. Therefore, humanity also bears immense collective responsibility. Distinguished guests, honorable ambassadors, the world often searches for peace externally while neglecting the inner cause of conflict. The Buddha taught that untrained mind is like a restless monkey, constantly grasping, fearing, comparing, and reacting. Such minds create restless societies. Meditation and mindfulness are therefore not escapes from reality. They are training for wiser engagement with reality. Mindfulness enables us to respond rather than react. It transforms anger from understanding, fear from clarity, and confusion into balance. In recent years, mindfulness practices inspired by Buddhism have spread across the world in education, healthcare, psychology, and conflict resolution. This demonstrates that ancient wisdom remains deeply relevant to modern humanity. Yet, mindfulness must not be reduced merely to a technique for productivity or stress reduction. In Buddhism, mindfulness must be united with the ethics and compassion. True mindfulness awakens responsibility towards all life. The peace the Buddha offered was not merely political peace or temporary tranquility. It was liberation from the roots of suffering themselves. Today, Vesak is celebrated internationally not only by Buddhists, but also by many who recognize the universal value of the Buddha's teaching. It is profoundly meaningful that Nepal, the birthplace of the Buddha, and Sri Lanka, one of the great custodians of Theravada Buddhist heritage, jointly celebrate these occasions. I hope that in next year we might have a collaboration of more ambassadors who is based on the Buddhist cultures like Burma and so on. This partnership symbolizes something deeply beautiful, that wisdom transcends borders, compassion transcends cultures, and peace requires global solidarity like this one. The Buddha belonged to no single nation. His message belonged to humanity. Of course, his body may be a Nepalese, but his wisdom is of the global heritage. In a fragmented world, Vesak reminds us our shared humanity and shared destiny. The light of Vesak is not merely the light of candles and lanterns. It is a light of awakening. A single lamp can illuminate a dark room. Likewise, a single compassionate action can eliminate despair. A single wise decision can prevent conflict. A single mindful person can positively influence an entire community. Therefore, each of us carries responsibility. Peace is not created only by governments or institutions. Peace begins in human hearts. As the Buddha taught, better than conquering 1,000 men in battle is conquering oneself. On this sacred International Day of Vesak occasion, may we renew our commitment to cultivate wisdom instead of ignorance, compassion instead of hatred, contentment instead of greed, mindfulness instead of heedlessness, and ethical responsibility instead of selfishness. The world does not need merely more information, it needs more awakening. The world does not suffer from lack of power alone, it suffers from lack of compassion. May the teaching of the Buddha continue to guide humanity towards reconciliation, sustainability, dignity, and peace. May all beings be free from suffering. May all nations live in harmony. May wisdom and compassion illuminate our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Thero, for sharing those profound reflections and teachings.
Darkness fails where light